This episode of Mr. Hutchings History is now streaming on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, and all your favorite platforms like Castbox, Podcast Addict, and Amazon Music. Tune in now.
Welcome to Mr. Hutchings History, where the past comes alive. Let's dive into today's story.
All right, let's jump right in, shall we? Today we're going back in time to World War II.
Ooh.
But not to the battlefields this time.
No.
We're looking at something a little different. Propaganda posters.
Interesting.
And, at first glance, they might just seem like, kind of simple morale boosters. Like,
right, just like...
keep up the good fight kind of stuff.
Exactly.
But our sources are suggesting that these posters were way more than that.
Oh, yeah, much more.
They actually played a key role in supporting, major economic and social shifts during the war.
That's right.
And that's what we're going to dive into today.
Absolutely.
So think 1942.
Okay.
America's just entered World War II.
Big changes.
Everything's changing.
Huge.
You've got men heading off to fight, factories needing to, totally ramp up their production.
Yeah.
And women are suddenly finding themselves in roles that they probably never even imagined before.
That's right. Yeah, it was a time of immense uncertainty.
I bet.
The entire nation had to adapt really quickly to this new wartime reality.
Right, and that's where the posters come in.
Exactly.
Right, they weren't just about, rallying support for the war effort. They were about, guiding people's actions, encouraging specific behaviors that would help contribute,
Absolutely. They were really about mobilizing the home front.
Okay.
Encouraging people to participate in very specific ways.
I see.
They were like visual representations of President Roosevelt's call to action.
So reminding people that, every single person had a part to play.
Exactly. Everyone had a role to play in this war effort.
Well,
whether it was on the factory floor or, being careful about what they said in public.
It's amazing how, these images could have such profound impact on people's everyday lives.
Oh, absolutely. They were everywhere, these posters,
Yeah.
in workplaces, in shop windows, on billboards. You couldn't escape them.
It was constant messaging.
Yes, a constant visual reminder of the war and what was expected of people.
So let's talk about specific posters now.
Okay, sounds good.
So there's one that is just iconic. It's still iconic today. Rosie the Riveter, We Can Do It.
Oh, of course, Rosie.
That image is just, it's so powerful.
Absolutely. She's a cultural icon.
Right.
Yeah.
But what I find really fascinating about that poster is how it manages to appeal to patriotism.
Yes.
While also, challenging these traditional gender roles at the same time.
That's what makes it so brilliant, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's this really clever combination of patriotic duty and female empowerment.
And it's so subtle.
It is. It's very subtle.
It's not in your face.
No, it's not preachy at all.
So who was this poster aimed at?
Well, specifically, it was aimed at women who had never considered factory work before. Women who were traditionally expected to stay at home.
So imagine seeing that image for the first time. You're a woman. Maybe you've never even thought about working in a factory before.
Right. It's a whole new world.
Right. And then you see Rosie, and she's strong and confident.
Yes.
And she's flexing her muscle.
Right. She's like a symbol of strength.
Yeah, and she's got that slogan, "We can do it."
Exactly. It's so empowering, isn't it?
It's like she's saying, you can help your country.
Yes.
And you're capable, you're powerful.
And your country needs you.
Yeah, exactly.
It's not just a request. It's like, you are vital to this. You are needed.
I love that.
It tapped into this desire to contribute meaningfully.
Right.
But it also subtly pushed back against this idea that a woman's place was solely in the home.
Oh, I see.
It was you can be patriotic and strong.
Okay.
And you can contribute outside of the home.
I wonder what the reaction was like back then when that poster came out.
Oh, I'm sure it was mixed,
Yeah, I bet.
Some people probably embraced it.
Right.
Saw it as this call to action, this opportunity to break free from traditional roles.
Yeah.
But I'm sure there were others who were, a little more resistant to this idea of women taking on these traditionally male roles.
I bet. But still, it must have been incredibly empowering.
Oh, absolutely.
For women at the time, especially with so many men away fighting.
Yes. It was a real shift in how women were perceived.
And it's important to remember that this poster It wasn't just some, like, random idea.
Yeah, it wasn't.
It actually embodied these specific guidelines set by the Office of War Information.
Oh, yeah. The OWI, they were very deliberate in their messaging.
Really?
Yeah. They wanted propaganda that promoted positive action.
Okay.
And national unity.
And not fear-mongering.
Exactly. They didn't want to scare people into compliance.
Gotcha.
They wanted to inspire them.
To be a part of it.
Yes, to feel like they were actively contributing to the war effort. Wow.
And Rosie perfectly fit the bill, you know?
Yeah.
She wasn't a soldier on the front lines.
Right.
But she was a vital part of the war effort back home.
Right. It was like everyone's contribution mattered.
Exactly. And regardless of gender.
It's amazing.
Yeah, it was a powerful message.
Yeah. It makes you wonder if, like, Rosie helped to kind of pave the way for women in the workforce even after the war.
That's a great question, and it's something that historians still debate today.
I bet.
You know, it's not like everyone went back to traditional roles overnight.
No.
But there's no doubt that Rosie helped to normalize the idea of women working outside the home.
And being a vital part of the economy.
Exactly.
Okay, well, let's move on to another poster that takes a totally different approach.
Okay, let's do it.
This one is "Loose lips might sink ships."
Oh, yeah. That one's a bit more chilling.
Chilling is right. I get chills just looking at it.
Yeah.
That sinking ship.
Yeah, it's very stark.
It's such a stark warning about the dangers of careless talk. Absolutely. It really drives home the point that even seemingly innocent chatter could have serious consequences.
Like, you know, you think about it and it's like, yeah, wartime, like secrets and spies.
Exactly. This was a time when rumors ran rampant. And people were genuinely worried about enemy infiltration.
Okay.
You know, spies and saboteurs potentially lurking everywhere.
Right. So the poster was playing on those anxieties.
Yes, very much.
Reminding people that, like, even seemingly harmless gossip.
Yeah, even just a little slip of the tongue
Yeah.
could have devastating consequences.
It's kind of scary to think about.
It is. It creates this atmosphere of suspicion.
Yeah.
Where you have to be careful about who you trust and what you say.
And what's interesting, too, is it doesn't explicitly threaten, like, punishment.
No, it doesn't, does it?
It's just, like, it implies something far worse.
Right. It suggests that you could be putting lives at risk.
Oh, wow.
By revealing sensitive information.
It's like, think before you speak.
Exactly. Loose lips might sink ships. Literally.
And that message, just like Rosie, was totally in line with the OWI guidelines, right?
Absolutely.
It was about promoting
national security.
National security.
And morale.
Even if it did so in a more chilling way.
Precisely. It's a different approach.
Yeah.
But it's still aligned with those core OWI objectives.
So both Rosie and Loose Lips show us how the government used these seemingly simple posters.
Yes, very simple on the surface,
Yeah.
but actually quite sophisticated in their messaging.
Right.
To achieve very specific goals.
So they weren't just like
random images.
Random, yeah.
No, they were strategic tools.
Wow.
Designed to manage public perception and behavior.
During a time of national crisis.
Exactly. They were a form of visual communication.
Yeah.
Carefully crafted to elicit a specific response from the public.
And they did it very effectively.
They did. They were very effective.
It's amazing.
Yeah, it's quite fascinating when you think about it.
It really is.
And, you know, it's interesting how these posters connecting with people on such a deep level.
Yeah.
You know, it wasn't just about, like, following orders. It was about, like, tapping into these really core values of patriotism and duty and, you know...
Community.
Community, exactly.
Yeah, you know, it's funny you mentioned earlier how Rosie was aimed at women who'd never even considered factory work.
Right.
My grandmother actually worked in a shipyard during the war.
Oh, wow.
Building Liberty ships.
That's amazing.
Yeah, and she always said it was like the hardest job she had ever done, but also the most rewarding.
I can imagine. I bet those ships were absolutely vital to the war effort.
Yeah.
And it's incredible to think about the sheer scale of production that was happening on the home front.
Yeah, to put that into perspective.
Okay.
How many ships did America produce during the war?
Okay, so just to give you an idea.
Yeah.
America produced nearly 3,000 Liberty ships during World War II.
3,000?
Yeah.
That's insane.
It is. It's a staggering number.
And a huge part of that workforce.
It was women.
Like my grandmother.
Like your grandmother, exactly. Women stepping up to fill the gap left by men going off to fight.
Wow, so 3,000 ships, I mean, that really puts the impact of Rosie into perspective.
It does, doesn't it?
Yeah, it wasn't just about changing perceptions.
Oh.
It was about tangible results.
Yeah.
Ships being built.
Supplies being produced. Yeah. The whole nation mobilized.
To support the war effort.
Yes, the entire country working towards a common goal.
And that economic mobilization
was essential for victory.
But it also had these, ripple effects, right?
Oh, absolutely.
That went far beyond the war itself.
It did. It really did.
Okay, so, for example...
Well, for example, women were proving they could handle jobs that were traditionally seen as,
men's work.
Men's work, exactly. And that had a lasting impact on gender roles and expectations.
It makes you wonder, looking back, if those posters kind of unintentionally created this, idealized image of wartime unity.
Right, like a romanticized version of what was actually happening.
Yeah, I mean, were there tensions or, pushback against these changing roles?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, it wasn't all, rosy, so to speak.
Right.
While Rosie promoted this image of empowerment, the reality was a lot more complex.
I see.
Women often face discrimination.
Oh, wow.
Lower wages than their male counterparts.
Really?
And, pressure to return to traditional roles once the war ended.
So it wasn't all, progress?
No, it was a step forward.
Yeah.
But there were definitely still challenges and inequalities that needed to be addressed.
And let's not forget about, the racial disparities that were still, very much present.
Oh, absolutely. That's a crucial point.
Yeah.
Many African Americans, despite wanting to contribute to the war effort, face limited job opportunities and, segregation even within the workforce.
So even during a time of national unity,
yeah,
there were still those underlying tensions and inequalities that we can't ignore.
Exactly. It's important to remember that the wartime experience wasn't the same for everyone.
Right. So how can we, make sense of all of this?
Well, I think that's why it's so crucial to look at these posters through different historical lenses.
Okay.
We have traditionalists who view them as symbols of national unity and sacrifice, which they certainly were on one level.
Right.
But then you have social historians who dig a little deeper.
Yeah.
Examining how these posters both reflected and shaped the changing roles of women and minorities.
Okay, so what kind of questions are they asking?
Well, they're asking questions like, were these posters truly empowering?
Okay.
Or did they ultimately reinforce traditional gender roles by, suggesting that women's contributions were only temporary?
That's interesting.
It's a really complex issue, and there's no easy answer.
It's fascinating how these seemingly simple images...
Yeah, just posters.
...can spark such, complex and nuanced discussions.
Decades later, even...
Even decades later. Yeah.
It's incredible.
And then there are cultural historians, right?
Oh, yes, absolutely.
What are they looking at?
Well, they see those posters as windows into the anxieties and fears of wartime America.
Oh, I see.
The loose lips poster, for example, speaks volumes about the paranoia surrounding espionage and the pressure to conform.
It's funny because looking at loose lips today, it almost feels like a precursor to modern-day concerns about online privacy.
Yes.
And misinformation.
Absolutely. It's like this timeless warning.
Right.
About the power of words.
And the potential consequences of careless talk.
Exactly. Even though the technology has changed, the underlying anxieties haven't really gone away.
It's like it makes you think.
It does.
About how those World War II posters might be adapted for today's world.
Right. What would a modern-day rosy or loose lips look like?
What issues would they address?
What kind of imagery would resonate with a 21st century audience?
Would we see a modern-day Rosie representing, frontline healthcare workers?
Well, that is a good one.
Or climate activists?
Yeah, or maybe even someone working in tech.
Breaking down barriers in Silicon Valley?
Exactly. The possibilities are endless.
And what about loose lips? Would it be warning us about the dangers of, sharing personal information online?
Or maybe about spreading fake news.
Oh, yeah.
Or falling for online scams.
It's like a thought experiment, right?
It is. It's fascinating to try to reimagine these iconic posters.
For a world grappling with all of these new challenges.
Climate change, social justice issues, the digital landscape.
And what's interesting is even though the messages would change, the underlying principles of visual persuasion would probably stay the same.
Absolutely. You'd still need to capture attention,
Right.
evoke an emotional response, and ultimately inspire action.
Wow, oh, yeah.
It's a reminder that even in today's digital age,
Yeah.
the power of a well-crafted image, paired with a compelling message, can't be underestimated.
That's powerful. Yeah, it really makes you realize, like, how powerful just a single image can be.
It's incredible.
To tap into, like, all those deep-seated emotions and beliefs.
Right.
And actually motivate people to change their behavior.
Absolutely. It's about more than just aesthetics.
Right.
It's about understanding how visuals can be used to communicate ideas and influence people.
Yeah, and that brings us to, like, a final thought-provoking question for you, our listener.
Okay, I like this.
If those iconic World War II posters, Rosie, Loose Lips,
Yes?
were created today,
Okay.
how would they be different?
That's a good one.
What issues would they address?
Yeah.
And how would they reflect our current society?
I mean, the world has changed so much since the 1940s.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Right. The challenges we face today are vastly different.
Totally. So imagine a modern-day Rosie the Riveter.
Okay, I'm picturing it.
Yeah.
Would she be a healthcare worker?
Ooh, maybe.
On the front lines of a pandemic? Exhausted but determined.
Yeah, that's good.
Or maybe she's a climate activist.
Okay, I like that.
Fighting for environmental justice.
Urging us to take action.
Before it's too late.
Yeah. Or maybe she's a tech entrepreneur.
Oh, interesting.
Like shattering the glass ceiling in Silicon Valley.
Yeah, showing that women can code with the best of them.
Exactly. I mean, the possibilities are endless.
They really are. It's exciting to think about.
Okay, now what about Loose Lips?
Okay, loose lips.
Would it be a warning about the dangers of online scams and identity theft?
Ooh, that's a good one.
Right, like reminding us to protect our personal information.
Yeah, to be careful about what we share online.
Yeah.
Or maybe it would be about the spread of fake news
Okay.
and misinformation.
And the importance of, like, critical thinking.
Exactly, being discerning consumers of information.
Wow, it's like a whole new game.
It is. It's a challenge.
Yeah, to reimagine those posters.
For a world grappling with all these new complexities.
And what's fascinating is that even though the specific messages would change,
Right.
the underlying principles of visual persuasion, those probably wouldn't change.
No, those core principles, they remain timeless.
Like, you'd still need to capture attention
Absolutely.
and evoke some kind of, like, emotional response.
Yes, connect with people on an emotional level.
And ultimately inspire action.
That's the goal, to move people to do something.
Wow. It's a reminder that even in today's digital age, with all the technology and everything,
Yeah, all the bells and whistles.
a well-crafted image with a strong message
Can still be incredibly powerful.
It's really amazing. Well, I think it's safe to say that today we've all learned a thing or two
I think so.
about, like, the power of images
Yes, the power of visual communication.
and the subtle ways that, like, they can influence us,
And the importance of being aware of those influences.
of being, like, critical consumers of all the messages that we see every day.
Absolutely, we're bombarded with messages constantly.
Yeah, and I think that's a great place to wrap things up for today.
I agree.
So until next time, keep those eyes peeled, keep those minds sharp.
Stay curious.
You never know when you might encounter some piece of, like, visual persuasion that's trying to, like, subtly shape your worldview.
It's out there.
It is. So that's it for this deep dive.
Thanks for joining us.
We'll catch you next time on the deep dive, where we'll be tackling a brand new topic and uncovering even more hidden insights.
Thanks for listening to Mr. Hutchings History. Keep exploring, and we'll see you next time.